What's up guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome if you're new here. I'm Nod and today we'll be taking a look at Melodious. This might be a nice pick for the format, whether you want to play it pure or even as an engine. Seeing that Shifter is now taking a back seat due to its low impact on the top decks, which are Malice and Ryzeal. This isn't really a deck that you should be expecting like 1000 negates from, but despite that, it do put up a fair amount of interruptions, with like your banish of up to 3 from either graveyards, from your Shiberta, and your bongs for up to the amount of Melodious monster that you banish off the effect of its all. As I said before, Shifter is pretty annoying to play against, but depending on the build that you have, you could mitigate the issue. So if you're playing something like the Nemeses Package, you could go Banshee into Flag and then Flag into Corridor, which you can then summon something like a Colossus, which pretty much would hinder your opponents from adding cards unless they address the issue, which is Colossus that has 2400 defense. And if you haven't gotten a Shifter, you could still make use of the package by going into something like a Protoss or even Escantos with knowledge of what your opponent is playing. So something like a game 2 or 3, you can go into that line and pretty much call either attribute or type and stop your opponent from having a turn pretty much. Then it'll be your turn and you can just go for game. So now with that out of the way, let's take a look at the Fiendsmith list first and then move on to the Nemesis list. Alright, so what we have here for the list is nothing really out of the ordinary, seeing that we have a limited amount of engine cards and the older cards aren't really that good aside from these 4 cards. So usually we'll go like multiple sonatas and like 1 cannon, but seeing that we want access to more rank 4s, we're going like double cannon and like 1 sonata. This ratio, having 2 Soprano, is pretty much a given, and 1 Shapina. For the Fiendsmith, we have the minimum mount, which is the Lakama, the Engraver, and the Paradise. You can always cut the Paradise and add like a second Small World, which I should be playing 2 of, but I'm struggling to find like the space to put it in. I don't want to go above 40 because we do have consistency issues. We're usually breaking on like hand traps and such, because as you can see, we're playing like a lot of hand traps. So you can always go like Small World into like Veiler, because it's your main bridge aside from the bridge for Droll, which the bridge for Joel is your ogre. So the connection is light into light, and for this the connection is 0 attack into Veiler and light into light. For ogre, it's 0 attack into 0 attack, which they both have, and then light into your main engine. So that's your common bridge. The extra deck is mainly Fiendsmith, aside from your Etoile, Double Baka, Shiberta, the Avermac, and your Exceed the Pendulum. Yes, Chaos Angel is now considered Fiendsmith because that's why it's getting popular. As for the side deck, the notable cards that I usually use that aren't test cards are the Strike, the Barrier, the Sanctum Package, which Lancia is broken in this deck because you can recycle it with your Shapina, and the Double Bell. I usually use this IRL because you can shave off about 1500 life points from your opponent in 1 turn, and it also adds you polymerization. You can use it as a discard or as something to fuse because it adds from the grave and the deck pretty much. I usually play Bloom, but I'm testing a Gunday, so I took out the Bloom for a Gunday. I'm still weighing my mind, that's why it's still here. This guy, it requires you to have space in the main deck, and I'd rather play a Small World than this guy, to be honest. As for the Nemesis list, it's pretty much the same. Just take out the Fiendsmith card from the extra deck and the main deck and replace them with Flag, Corridor, and Aria, because we weren't playing Aria in the other build. This one, for the extra deck, we have Colossus, we have Bagushka. You can swap this out for Dueler. It's more impactful in my opinion. Flame Banshee, it's the link to our Nemesis line. Moon, not the other Moon, this Moon. Agents, Bloom Harmonious, SB, IP, Exceed the Pendulum, and your Avermac. As I said, the only thing you should really note from the side is the Strike, the Barrier, and the Hand Trap. However, this time we're playing Castle and or Harpy's Featherstorm, because yes, we could do that as well. Toxic. Let's see if we can like show a few gameplays. If you made it this far, clearly you found the video interesting. You can just leave a like. Also, if you want to see more videos from us, you can click the video links in the description to watch more of our videos and subscribe to our channel. Alright, so let's say you got caught by a Shifter. This is pretty much what you can do. That's why I said we don't really lose to Shifter anymore. You got caught by a Shifter, you're like, okay, you're gonna summon Refrain. Then you go Refrain to add your cannon. You overlay. You detach, you add your flag. Then you go into your corridor. You could go SB right here in order to like dodge something like a neighbor or so. So summon Corridor. I'm going to use Corridor's effect because while on the field you can add back a banish Nemesis monster. So if you like play the Arch Nemesis, you can pretty much add it back. So the following turn, you can summon flag and go Arch Nemesis on your opponent, seeing that they've went through their turn and they're the one that shifted you. So most likely you're going to play. Now this is the annoying part. You go into Colossus. So usually like the decks that tends to shifter you, they most likely want to add. If Tempire Dragon, they want to add. Like Ryzeal, they want to add. All those stuff, they want to add. The only one that probably doesn't add that much is like Malice. But if they're playing something like the Kashtira or Striker version, they'd want to resolve engage on you. So having Colossus up is pretty annoying for them. So they'll have to find a work around the Colossus. All right, so let's say you didn't get shifter or something, but you want to go into like your Nemesis line or like, you know, your Protoss plays or whatever. Right here, we're going to target our Baka. We're going to send a Melodious monster from the deck. It doesn't have to be Shapina. I just like to send Shapina, right? Now you're going to fuse into your A12. Baka is going to summon your Soprano back to the field. And as you can see, we have our refrain in the extra deck. You have to do a line like this where you have two refrain because you want to pendulum summon the refrain to get your other level 4 body. Unless you open something like a cannon, then you know, whatever. What we just did, we banished 2 of our monsters from the grave to supply our Nemesis package. So we don't have to worry about getting them on the field because they can just use their effect to return and then summon. And that kind of benefits us a lot because now we can recycle cards that are pretty much in our grave. Because usually we just leave them in our grave and then next turn we'll probably just do something. So, you know, we just got rid of all those cards. So now we're going to 12. Also, if you don't have monsters in your grave to banish off your Shibersa, or let's say you have like one monster or something in the grave to banish off Shibersa, or you use the Shibersa's effect this turn already, you can always just banish like Melodious monsters that you aren't going to use for the rank 4 with a 12's effect and then just shuffle them back because it doesn't really matter. You just supplying your Nemesis. Worst case scenario, you can always just banish your 12 and just shuffle it back as well because you're just recycling stuff. So we pendulum summon, we go into Flame Banshee, it's going to add flag. Flag is going to return our Shapina, we summon, then we're going to add our Corridor. And now Corridor is going to return our Baka to summon. And unlike the other combo where these would be banished, so you can add this back from the banishment, it's going to be in the graveyard, so you know it sucks. But usually like this is most likely where you go for like Protoss or something instead of like a Colossus. But if you're going first and you don't know what your opponent's playing, like the best bet is always Colossus. Like that's usually what I do when I'm playing my Ritual Beast. Like last format, I always just go Colossus first because I don't know what they're playing, and it helps a lot because you're gaining like knowledge of what they're playing for like game 2 and 3 if they even make it to game 3, and now you can effectively summon Protoss or Escantos to call a type or attribute to pretty much lock them out. So yeah, so if they try to hit over the Colossus, it pretty much has 2 lives because this is in the grave, so you can just banish it and protect. Alright, so in this match we're going up against Ryzeal. I could have shown like the other matches like with Malice and the other decks that I came up against. However, this match was one that I went second, and I'm like, this Ana is pretty trash. And I'm like, how am I going to do this? I was pretty much depending on my top deck. Because as you can see, they're playing Ryzeal, Fiendsmith, Bestial. I'm like, okay, you know. So I'm like, I just need something to bait out a monster effect so I can go thrust into talents and just take like their detonator or something. And if I have their detonator, I could just like clear most of their boards. But it didn't work out how I planned, and I still won though. So as you can see, they added Baldric at the end phase, and I top deck Imperm, and I was like, Imperm the Caesar. But afterwards, I was like, why did I Imperm the Caesar? I should have just baited out an effect, and then afterwards, I like thrust into talents and then Imperm something, and then take like their detonator, you know? Or even save it. But I'm like, okay, I already messed up, so let's go Concerto. So I went Concerto, they went Lacrima, right? And then I summoned Baka, and Baka's effect, and then they went Regain, and then Requiem. At first, I'm like, why didn't they like, you know, use the effect of Croft? And then I remember that, well, they can't negate Fusion Melodious monsters because Baka is on the field. A Fusion summon Baka is on the field, which stops them from negating the effect. So I guess he knows his stuff, or he just probably didn't want to stop that. But if he did try to to negate the Baka, it would still resolve. It's the same case where as you try to Ash this card, it won't stop its effect because it's a Fusion Melodious monster. So it went Soprano, and they went like Lacrima. They did negate here by detaching the aggregator, which will target the Baka. I'm like, okay. So I went Thrust, trying to go to talents, right? They ashed me, so I'm like, oh, I guess my imperm on the Caesar was right after all, because, you know, that would have sucked. So now I almost summoned my Nemesis Corridor because I had to. I needed a 4. I went Exiton, and then they went Paradise, and I said Exiton is effect, right? So now I went like Baka, 1 targeting the refrain. They went like Desiree, targeting my Exiton. And you might be wondering, why do they still have monsters on the field? That's because Desiree detached to protect. So I went Exiton again, and they went Detonator to target my Exiton to destroy it. I'm like, okay, it doesn't really matter. I'm pretty much done with Exiton right there. So I summon my Refrain. My Refrain is gonna get me into a couplet from the deck. I don't know what they thought, because I just drew a card. I normal summoned already, and I'm now adding from the deck. You went Perulia, you're pretty much wasting your cards because I'm not gonna summon from my hand. So I went Couplet. In Couplet's effect, when it's added, it can special summon a level 4 lower Melodious monster. So I special summon my Soprano, which already uses effect for the turn, so I can't add back anything from the grave, which the only thing there is my Couplet and my Baka. So I went Soprano, the Fusion Summon. And what I did here, I forgot, well, not really forgot, I actually clicked off the effect of Refrain. That's the issue that I have like when playing in digital. I usually like click off some stuff by accident, which I should click its effect to scale. And now I scale my couplet, and I'm going to add Concerto because I didn't add it this turn. I just opened it, which pretty sucked, but you know, it worked out. But what would happen is, if I had this in the scale, then next turn, if they happen to like remove my Shiberta, I could always like Concerto the 2 pendulums to go into a Baka and go full combo. They Bottle Drake, I could have belled, but I'm like, why would I? It'll still be live in the next turn. So I just let it summon, and I'm like, all right, I didn't attack, so I'm gonna just beat over the Bottle Drake, which I don't know why I didn't summon an attack, because he wouldn't take any damage this turn even if I banish cards from the grave. So he just made it easier for me. So it says like time up, but he surrendered in the actual game, and he rage quit the other games, I think, because who wouldn't? This was game 1. Like, that was embarrassing, because if you look at my hand versus his board, I shouldn't have won that, but I guess it worked out. And in his turn, if he were to like engraver or something, I could just banish the engraver or even bell the engraver, and then for the follow-up, I would just go like Concerto or such. But he could open the nuts and just go crazy, but you know, that's just how it is. That's it for today, guys. See you guys next time.